my name is Phil Seaver. I am the principal partner of Seaver Story. Here with our intern, Ben Wallace, doing a series of videos. Hopefully you've seen some of the other ones we've shot. Series of videos where Ben, learning about the firm, learning about eminent domain, is asking some questions that a lot of our landowner clients and prospects and folks that call the office have. So today we have questions about utility easements, like what they are, who owns them, stuff like that. So Ben, why don't you fire away? First question.
What is a utility easement?
All right, so utility easements are all around us. Everybody that owns a piece of property probably has utility easement on the property. So it could be something as simple as like, how do you get your cable, or how do you get your water? How do you get your electricity? Well, to get those things, your power company, your water company, your cable company has to have a right to enter your property. So an easement is just a right to enter and do something on your property that the landowner gives to somebody. And so let's use a house with electric. So you own a house, you have a piece of ground, you got a land, and you've given the utility company the right to run a power line to your house to provide you power. So it's you allow them to provide power, and you give them that right to run the line. Well, what happens in eminent domain context a lot of times is we'll see a power company, a sewer company, a power or pipeline company want to come through and do a big project, right? So this is not like a small line to your house. Think in terms of the big towers, Ben. So have you ever been in the country and seen these huge power towers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So each one of those towers goes across somebody's land. All those lines go across somebody's land. And that means that power company had to get the right to do so. And a lot of times they'll use eminent domain. They'll say, I want the right to put my power line on your property. I'm going to take your land to put this huge, enormous power line on it. And that is what they do when they take it, is they take an easement. And an easement is different than taking fee simple. Fee simple is like taking all the rights, you just own the property, right? If you take in fee simple. An easement says I'm taking a right to do certain things. So it's not a full, people will argue it's not a full taking of all the rights to the property. I think in a lot of cases it operates as a full taking because they take so many rights as part of the easement. But it is not a full taking. It's a right of access, a right of use on the property. So you'll see it, Ben. You'll see big power lines. You'll see folks that with pipelines. You don't necessarily see those above ground here in the central United States, but like big 40-inch gas pipelines that transport gas from the Rockies out to the East Coast. Those are huge gas lines that go across people's ground, and that's an easement. Again, another easement that they take. So that's kind of generally what an easement looks like. And folks that contact us usually come in a couple different ways. They come to us like with a power line or pipeline easement. Sometimes you'll see easements for the right to store property, like store gas or store natural gas, store oil. You'll sometimes see easements for right of access. So they'll want to get an easement of access or a driveway on your property. So a bunch of different easements. Here's the takeaway. When they take your ground and they want an easement, they got to pay for it. And the same rules of just compensation apply to easements as they do to fee simple takings and takings done by the government entity. And the same problems occur for landowners, right? So, easement company, we just did some power line cases the other day. Duke Energy came through. They offered my client like $50,000 for a wide range of pipeline easements. Ended up settling the case for over $300,000. So, again, compensation focused. What compensation is fair and appropriate when we're talking about the taking for these easements? I will mention in any easement case we have, the company is for sure trying to take advantage of the landowner, not just on price, but on what the easement says. They go super broad on what the easement allows. And part of our job is to make sure they take as little as they need and not so much that not more than they are allowed to take. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot. From that conversation, do you have any questions that you kind of think of with that?
Yeah. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but the power line company would be private owned.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so typically the utility is a money making entity. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a privately owned. They call it, for purposes of the law, kind of a quasi governmental agency, because it's rate controlled in some respects. Especially a power utility is rate controlled. So they're quasi governmental, but they still are a private money making entity. Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
pipelines that are not rate controlled, like they're just in it to make dollars. Like a pipeline
okay.
makes a lot of money. Yeah. Which is
So
wild, right? That this private entity is allowed to make all this freaking money and take your property to do it. It's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my question. So, like, if they're private owned, how do they get the right to take your property?
Because we've just decided as a society that we want power distribution, we want pipelines and distribution of these important minerals and gas and oil and electricity. Like, they're important to have our society function. And so we've given this enormous power to these pipeline and power line companies. I mean, think about that power, the right they have to take your ground, right? They can come in and say, oh, we got to put a pipeline in here. They're allowed to take your land to do it. But we've decided as a society that that's allowed. And so we've given this power to them basically through statutes, through local laws, federal laws. It's wild, isn't it? Like, it's kind of crazy to think they don't have to pay. They just force take the property. Because if you had to pay it, like, imagine they came up to some farmer and said, I'm going to stick like a 40-foot power line tower right in the middle of your cornfield. The farmer would be like, pay me $1 million for that. Maybe I'll let you do it. Right. But they're allowed to come in and kind of dictate. And that's why it's important. That's why our job is important, because we're allowed to at least hold them accountable on a price perspective. Anything else you can think of?
That was my only thing.
That was a good question. That was a good question. I like that question. Yeah, it is a little bit out. I agree. It seems outrageous, but that's how it is. All right. So thanks for watching, Ben. Thanks for the good questions today. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out. My name is Phil Seaver, again, one of the principal partners here at Seaver Story. There'll be some contact information after the video. And so, please feel free to reach out. I'm around to answer questions all the time. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Ben, thanks for joining us, and have a great day.